let's look at the first verses of Matthew 18, because these first verses put a math equation before us. At least that's what I could see as I look through the different parables. They challenge us to see the world and the work of God in a brand new way. And, you know, I'm not very good at math, so it's not just that when you see these equations, because this one's not right, pretty sure. The greater than and less thans don't work out the way mathematically they should. But in the way that God expresses His kingdom, they do. And you can certainly pause this video, read these verses, see if you can figure out what I'm trying to say by these fractions. God says in his answer to His disciples something like these fractions. You know, we have the disciples gather around Jesus, maybe got all 12 of them there, and the question's asked, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And although contextually speaking in Matthew we don't get that, we have them arguing about who's the greatest in other synoptics, but we here don't get to see that. So perhaps the 12 are standing around Jesus saying, who's the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, hoping that it's going to be, you know, which one of the disciples is leaning forward, getting ready to go into the circle and get called the best, the greatest. That's not how it works out, because God's kingdom is nothing like we expect it to be. Even the one who has been there the longest isn't called the greatest. You know, this is God's giving a picture of who God is, the character of God. Jesus says, here's the greatest, and He takes a child, and not just a child, it's a little child. You know, some of the translations have infant. This one doesn't have paidos, which would be child. It's paidion, which is a little child. So it's a little child that's brought into this circle. And Jesus says, this one is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. There's those fractions. That's the way that it could be represented mathematically. Because you have age, you have experience, you have wisdom, you have loyalty, all these things that would want to put those bigger numbers as greater, right? Mathematically, that would be correct, even though our culturally and even our own ego and personality want to put the greater numbers bigger as well. That's not what Jesus does. He puts these small numbers, and He says, these ones are the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Your perceptions of the kingdom of heaven are wrong. God's kingdom is shown through the way that I want it to be shown, in these ways. And we want Jesus to go a little bit further, right? We want Jesus to, okay, so now a little child is the greatest. Now fill in the blank for us, Jesus. In what respect and what aspect? Okay, what way is this child better? I like Matthew because Matthew really does not open that door. And I believe that's what Jesus does for you, for me, even does for His disciples today. It's unusual. He doesn't explain the parable. He doesn't give us that aspect that connects. Is it trust? I mean, we've had scholars try to fill in the blank before. Is it just the way they trust? They're open. They're willing to trust the things that are spoken, and just to take Jesus at His word. That's not what Jesus says. He doesn't say that. Is He talking about the creativity or the openness of a child? I was reading an article just last week that said, you know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, think like a child. I think that's part of what it's coming from, you know, that thinking outside the box, the creativity, the anything's possible, and throwing everything out on the table that maybe you would have just put outside or categorized as silly, a child will put on there. And that kind of thinking helps to be a good entrepreneur. I think that helps certainly in our time and place and in this world of mission. How do we do this kingdom of God in this time and place? We need that kind of creativity. We need that kind of outside the box thinking and openness to do things differently, the way that God would maybe open new pathways to people's lives to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. But no, we don't see that. We don't see that aspect pointed to by Jesus to say, that is what I mean, that this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. It's not there. And I think importantly, it says, think about it. Challenge yourself to try to understand what God is saying here. That is the picture of what God is doing here as He announces His kingdom in this way.